Hey, it's Rebecca. Welcome to the Brainy Blonde podcast. You guys, I am so happy you're here with me, and I'm so darn happy to be back. It's been a while since I've been here with you, but I promise it's for a really, really exciting reason. I've been traveling to Europe every month since November, and I will continue to do so for a while. And there are two very big reasons why that's happening, and two very big reasons why this is good news for you too. First, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. William Lee is a new friend of mine, and he is one of the most incredible humans I've ever met. I know most of you know Dr. Lee, and if you haven't met him, you haven't seen him, you will, because he is everywhere. He is changing the world by changing the way we understand food and how it affects our bodies from a medical point of view. But he's also doing this thing where he's showing us how loving our food, yes, loving, not fearing, can change our health. In November, I went to London to present to Dr. Lee's Angiogenesis Foundation about being an outlier and how food has been part of my life-saving story. And now I'm acting as an advocacy ambassador for the Angiogenesis Foundation. Woo, that's a mouthful. But that means that I am going to be sharing brand new, top-tier, life-saving information with you about what foods you can add to your diet that will help you fight disease. And Dr. Lee is going to be on the show soon too to tell you himself some of this good stuff in a way only he can do it. The second reason I've been going to Europe monthly is to see my hero, Dr. Saskia Biskup, who I hope will also be on the show soon. She is so busy. They're all so busy, but I know she will. The reason I'm going monthly again is I am going to get a new vaccine. It's a prophylactic vaccine, like the vaccines we all get as babies to prevent mumps and polio, but this one is customized to me to help prevent me from getting the cancer that have been passed down to me in my genes. I'm so, so grateful to be getting a new dose of the superpower that I know is helping keep me alive and to be kind of a test person for this new treatment that I truly believe is the future of cancer treatment for all of you. In combination with lifestyle, a vaccine like this could actually prevent you from even getting cancer, your kids from getting cancer. I get goosebumps. You guys, I say cancer saved my life, and it did. I wasn't truly living until I was told I was going to die. That's why I say I'd never go back, and I wouldn't. I choose this bright, beautiful version of life, even if it's scary, even if it's shorter than the one I was living before or what I anticipated life would be. But I want the same for all of you, ideally without the cancer wake-up call. I'm sure all of you have been touched by cancer in some way, either yourself or someone you love, but I am here to help you live better and without fear and to be fully present and in love with your life. I can't think of a better person to help demonstrate the beauty of truly living in the present than my guest today. Someone who lives in the Netherlands, but now I get to see nearly every month, Maggie Walker. Maggie is a birth doula, a postpartum doula, and a death doula. And she is love personified. Caregiving is the core of her existence. And the way she holds space for those in that magical liminal space between the here and the infinite is so moving to me. I know you're going to be filled with awe and inspired to love your life after listening to this conversation. Maggie is someone I've known since before she was even born. Because when I was a 4-year-old bossy Becky, I'd insist to everyone who'd listen that that was my baby sister in my mom's belly. And God was giving her to me because I asked. I joke that I immediately regretted that decision when she was born because she followed me around for the next few years, copying everything I did. And then something changed, and I feel like I've spent every day since trying to be just like her. She's the best person I know, and I hope this is the first of many conversations we will have together on the Brainy Blonde podcast. We call our long-distance conversations the constant in between, and I hope you enjoy this one. Oh my God. Hi, Beast. Here we are. I can't believe we're really doing this. This is insane. We have been talking about doing a podcast together for 10 years, maybe. And It's so funny because we were just together because you live in Europe, I live here in the US. And so we are going to do this podcast called The Constant In Between. And then we were just together last week and we're both talking about how we watched that show. What's that show called that we watched that has the podcasters? Nobody Wants This.
Yes, I can never remember the name.
I know. I'm always like, wait, it's the opposite of what it is. And that we both felt the same way. We were just like, what? This is what we were going to do. And here we are kind of trying to do it.
Trying to do it.
I feel like there are countless things that we could talk about, but
as we did in the hotel room, those 3 nights in Germany.
I know.
Every time. I feel like we should be recording this.
So for the audience who knows me, but not you, which there are going to be quite a few, Maggie lives in the Netherlands, and she is a birth doula, a death doula, and a lot of the things in between, right? And I just think that what you're doing and where you're doing it is just so fascinating. So I don't know, do you want to talk at all about that? Do you want to tell a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, I'm trying to think what got me sort of into this work in the first place. And I think there is a common thread right there, which is, of course, our mom and her journey through cancer. And near the end of her journey, as we all did, take turns doing our own part of caring for her and being involved in her experience through all of it. There was just this moment at the end where hospice came in, and I just remember being so moved by the work that they did. And as hard as it was for me to separate myself from my own experience and my own mom being the person that they were caring for, there was just this part of me that was really inspired and really curious to learn more about hospice and what that work looked like. And then I think it was just a seed. A seed was planted. And I remember having tea and talking to one of the hospice nurses about her work and what she does. And I think she just thought I was sort of making small talk, but needless to say, some seeds were planted then and there, and I didn't do anything with it for quite some time. And my life took me a totally different direction. But when I think back to what did spark my interest in becoming a birth doula, I think that was the first real seed planted. And just knowing that I wanted to be helpful and be of service and to support people, maybe in a really difficult time or journey, but I didn't really know what that looked like. And so that was just sort of there from that point forward. And then the real launch into birth doula work, which is my primary focus now, was the birth of my own child. And people always ask, oh, you must have had a doula at your birth. Tell me all about that. And when you learned about what a doula was. And I had 2 home births. I was living in Hawaii at the time. And yes, a doula was present, but I had no idea what a doula was. I had a home birth, so the midwife came with an assistant, an extra pair of hands to help her when and where was needed. And this woman was just incredible. I had a very supportive husband. I had a wonderful midwife, but there was just something about Jan that was just, I couldn't imagine doing it without her. It was just that extra set of hands on me, physical support, emotional support, encouragement. I think, looking back, it was the motherly figure that I wished I had there, but obviously wasn't able to be present anymore. And she just had such a huge impact. I couldn't imagine giving birth without her by my side. And I really feel like it was the first postpartum visit that she made, where she came to our house to check up on us and those, blurry first few days. And I said, okay, so tell me a little bit more about this birth doula thing. How do I become a doula? And pretty much
Wow.
from yeah, there forward, I started reading and looking for trainings and courses, and well, that was 15 years ago.
Wow. Yeah, time flies. But I mean, I love what you said
Mhm.
about like how she kind of was who mom maybe would have been in the room with
Yeah.
you at that time, or maybe even if we had have a mother, she can't really be the person that you want her to be in that space. So you can be the trained expert, but also just the emotionally available person to be there, just to support the mama and not worrying about anything else. And that's amazing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so in the Netherlands, when you are helping with births, are they always home births or do you do it sometimes in the hospital or?
No, surprisingly, I think that the home birth rate is really declining. I think since I've lived here, it's declined quite rapidly. I attend both home and hospital birth, but more
Okay.
people are birthing in the hospital here in the Netherlands as well.
Well, when we were just together, you told me the most moving story about being at this birth. And I think I always knew that you were there supporting, coaching, helping. And I feel kind of bad because I don't want to say I underestimated, but I just didn't really realize how much you do and how much you know until you told me that story about that birth. And if you want, I would love for you to share that.
Yeah, I mean, help me because I don't know
Yeah.
exactly what we were talking about, but
Yeah.
I think that's a really common thing to say and a really honest thing to say. Most people don't know what a doula is. And I think the reason for that is one, I mean, doulas haven't been around officially in the capacity that doulas are working the way they are now for that long. And with that being said, I think each and every birth is so different and so unique that your role is always changing. It's always evolving. And yeah, it's really hard to describe exactly what the work is that I do without speaking in general terms. And then when you just generalize, yeah, it makes sense to not really understand how much dedication goes into the work that I do.
Just
Yeah.
the story that you shared with me that just took my breath away was you were um you were acting as a doula at a birth. I don't know if it was a home birth or not, but I know it was a
It
water
was.
birth. Yes, and you were telling me about the her partner was super involved, super helpful, really hands-on, really trying to support her physically and then when it came time for her to deliver the baby, you you just like, oh God, I'm getting emotional just thinking about it. You could tell something was wrong. And you could tell by something that maybe that was taking too long or that something wasn't happening the way it was expected to. And you could even see that the midwife delivering the baby maybe was in some distress. And that, God, I still have goosebumps thinking about it.
Yeah, I think and as you should, because it's just the most beautiful and primal and delicate moment of a woman and a baby's life. It's like this, talk about the constant in between. It really is the space in between two worlds where everything just sort of stands still and time seems to speed up and slow down and stop. And there's so many things happening at once. And yes, there was a home birth unfolding with an amazing birth partner who was very hands-on, so hands-on that at one point he got in the birth bath with her because it just seemed to make more physiological sense in his body as well to get a better angle to apply low back counter pressure and support, which we as doulas often do. I shared with you, I was very sore after many a births from providing the support that I do. And yeah, I just think sometimes something happens where um, the it's hard to talk about birth without sounding too esoteric or too woo-woo, but you can definitely feel a shift of energy in the room. maybe the midwife holding her breath or starting to breathe a little bit more rapidly. Sometimes you can just feel it in the air. Something has changed. And I think the one thing that people underestimate about birth in general is um, the physical body is designed to move and birth, and the way you move your body has a huge impact on the journey the baby's taking. Baby is rotating through the pelvis, and the different ways that you move your body have such a huge impact. And yeah, suggesting movement, doing counter pressure, changing a position can make all the difference. And she'd sort of found a position in the bath that felt comfortable to her, that was working for her really well. But baby wasn't really enjoying it very much. And very quickly, the heart tones of baby started to descend and started to get lower and lower. And I could see in the midwife's face that she wasn't really happy with what she was hearing. And suggesting movement at this point was a little tricky because she was really nearing the end, nearing the birth of her baby. But yeah, I know how important it can be. And so at some point you have to just sort of become, yeah, a little bit more like Mama Bear and be more directive in your suggestions. And yeah, we had to suggest a little bit more, yeah, in a more serious tone, that she needed to try some different positions and do them quickly. And at one point it was, very chaotic as things were being removed from the bath, birth support stools and people and other people were getting closer to the bath. And yeah, all in the end, everything worked out just as it should and beautifully. But yeah, there's a moment where sometimes putting your knees together and widening your feet or stepping a foot forward makes all the difference when we're looking at something like shoulder dystocia or a baby getting sort of stuck in the pelvis. So,
That's
yeah.
incredible. Because when you were telling me that story about when mama, like when something kind of, you could tell something was just off, and just, you said your instincts kicked in because of your knowledge with spinning babies. And in a sec, I want you to tell kind of the general population what that is. But at least in the US, like, first of all, we're all just kind of strapped to a bed and just meant to just like lay there. And like, it's just, it's very different. Or typically, and I haven't had a baby in 15 years or 13 years. So it could be different, but just this beautiful, like you said, primal, instinctual knowledge, or something that was probably always part of the journey of motherhood, that's been lost as it's become such a medical process. But there's so much more you can do. So if a baby is breech, I think it's still the same. It's kind of like, let's schedule your C-section here, or in general, unless you're working with somebody who has specialized knowledge like you do about how to get a baby to move in the womb and rotate so that it's possible to have a birth without surgery. And so you studied that, you know how to do it. You implement that. I don't know if you teach that, but you do it when people need it. And those instincts kicked in that time where the baby was stuck, and you kind of knew. I'm just picturing you just like envisioning in your mind what is happening in that inside, that where you can't see, and you just know what needs to happen, so that there's like a physical shift that creates the space. And when it's feeling urgent and starting to be on the edge of maybe not panic, but urgency, and there isn't, you're not at a hospital, there isn't someone to call in and get start wheeling you towards the surgery room, there's other ways, and you didn't really seem to think, you just did it. And I just think that's amazing.
I think that that's, it is amazing, but it also comes a lot from the mama in labor and this birth especially, but many others. I just am always in awe of just watching a woman in labor and the way she moves and the way she just sort of takes different shapes or positions, to make more space or to ease discomfort and I mean, as you said, many of the people that are often listening to your podcast don't know about me or the work that I do, but I'm also a yoga teacher and I've been teaching prenatal and postnatal yoga for a really long time. And I think that that has a huge impact, not only on the mamas themselves in giving birth, but my knowledge of the pelvis and what's going on. And I also think it helps that I'm a really visual person.
Yeah.
I can just visualize, like you said, what's going on in the body and know that if she moves her foot this way or her leg in that way, it could unlock a doorway and make all the difference versus, continuing to allow birth to unfold at home versus calling, the emergency vehicles to come and assist. So, yeah, yeah.
I love that. And I, I mean, I did the prenatal yoga classes, but it's just funny because it just never even really, until talking with you over and over about this, even occurred to me. I just felt like, okay, that my point or my job was to get strong and do a bunch of squats just in case I needed some certain muscles to come into play. But never was I taught or did I seek out the right people, I guess, to really understand that like I could have some sort of intuitive sense of what my body was meant to do and get into different positions. It was literally laying on my back, delivering children in the worst pain of my life and not knowing, not being empowered or educated to know there was a different way to do it. And um, I hope it continues in the direction of what you're doing so that it doesn't feel like such a medical thing. It's always beautiful and magical, but just it would be so empowering, I think, and just probably healthier for mama and baby to be able to do it in that way.
Absolutely. And, I often say to my clients, to my students, you know, you really want to be in good physical health. Walking every day is amazing. Eating good food, of course, taking care of your body, staying well hydrated, taking magnesium baths, all of these things are so, so important. But in all honesty, 80% of birth is not in your body, it's up in your head. And so, I mean, eliminating,
Like life in general, right?
well, exactly, exactly. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, your physical health is incredibly important. And more aware of your body, maybe the more physical your body is, the more mobile you are, the better in that sense. But it's not like you have to be in top shape at the peak of your physical health to have a really positive birth. Not at all.
Right.
It's really getting out of your head and into your body in a sense of just listening to your body and moving intuitively. I mean, I teach lots of birth positions and ways to move your body, but so often, like I said before, I'll just be witnessing someone in birth and in awe of how they're moving. Like, I never told her to move like this. I never told her to take this shape or to do what she's doing. But how beautiful is this? She's just listening to her body and moving her body in a way that feels good. And once again, when you know just even the basics about physiological birth and what's happening with the baby and what's happening with your pelvis, it's really a no-brainer to not be on your back, especially with your feet up in stirrups.
Right. I mean, it's just, yeah. And just being able to move intuitively, I think there are a few things that stand in the way of that. One is we're meant not to even listen to those cues. We're meant to just make everything easier for everyone or safer. I'm not trying to say that it's a malicious system, but also I think you're under bright lights and people are looking at you and you're feeling self-conscious, you're in horrible pain, and a lot of the pain is probably fear and like clenching and that just how far removed it is from what really it was meant to be. And I just can imagine being in softer lighting and you're in safe surroundings with your partner, maybe music, just like everything, you just feeling comfortable to just be yourself and listen to your body, not like you're on display in some surgery room, or bright lit hospital room. I I think it's so beautiful. And I don't know. I
The
talk a lot
way,
of, go ahead.
no, I mean, the way that I've simply evolved my teaching and how I explain birth is there's physiological birth, the way we were designed as human beings to deliver our babies, and then there's managed vaginal birth. And that's when someone intervenes in some way. Sometimes it's medically necessary and sometimes it's not. And then
Mm,
there's cesarean birth. So there's three different ways to give birth. Physiological birth, undisturbed, allowing the body to produce its own hormones, oxytocin being the most important, impactful one, and that's the love hormone. And there's a saying that says, what gets the baby in gets the baby out. And I love that because I often tell my clients, think of the environment you were probably in when you created this baby. It was probably dark. Maybe there was candlelight. Maybe there was some music. You hopefully felt safe and held and secure and listened to and supported and in control, right? You would hope that for any person that was becoming pregnant. And this is the environment we need to birth our babies. It's not that complicated, but we are so far from that in a lot of ways. And I'm a huge advocate for hospital birth, and I'm so thankful for all the gynecologists and OBGYNs and midwives and nurses all around the world. But I think we can do a lot better in supporting a better birth environment and encouraging a woman to make the room as dark as possible, to invest a small amount of money in battery operated candles or a strand of Christmas lights, and using an essential oil to make it smell nice, to create a birth playlist or just have some music on. Right there, you've completely changed a hospital environment into something that at least feels a lot safer and a lot better for giving birth. And so often, we've gone so far from the way it used to be. I mean,
right.
this is a conversation we could have about everything from food to the way we exercise. And I think, as we've gotten a little bit older, we've also had these conversations, like just the simplicity of going for a walk every day. And if not every day, maybe every other day. The simplicity of just eating real food, the simplicity of maybe just thinking about how women gave birth 100 years ago. They definitely were not lying on a bed with their feet in stirrups under some bright lights. They were most likely somewhere very dark and warm, surrounded by a community of women, squatting down in a really great birthing position, and allowed things to unfold that way. So, yeah.
I love how you say that. I mean, first of all, it's just so moving. I get so emotional when you talk about it. I don't know if it's
I
just
don't know
because
that we've
it's,
ever talked about
I
this
know.
in such depth. So,
It's
yeah.
well, and it's funny when we connected, I didn't know that this is necessarily what we were going to talk about because I have 100 things I want to talk to you about, but I'm so glad we are. I'm so glad we spent last week talking about it a little bit more because it is so moving what you do. I have so much admiration. I always have had, I mean, anyone who knows me, I'm always like, she's my little sister, but like I've looked up to her ever since I was like a teenager because not only are you like beautiful and creative and talented and all this, but just like at the very core of who you are, you've always been the one that everyone loves because you're love, right? You're love kind of personified and you have this gift for caring for people really authentically. And I just love the way I didn't even feel like you were being diplomatic. It felt like you were being really honest. Like it's not an either or. It's not a we have to go back in time and hospitals shouldn't be involved or I talk about a lot of food as medicine, but really I'm a food and medicine. We all know that I'm here because of science. I'm here because of a vaccine. I'm not here just because I eat healthy food. It's just all goes together. And yes, it's great that that science has evolved in such a way that lives are saved and we have these interventions, but they should, I think, be interventions, not the norm, not the status quo. It doesn't have to be a machine. It doesn't have to be polarizing. It's an and.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's hard for me to want to talk about you doing being a birth doula in the same kind of conversation as you being a death doula, but at the same time, it's kind of the bookends, right, of life. It's the most, um, these times can be so beautiful and they can also be very terrifying, but just, um, yeah, coming into existence here on this earth and then going into the next place and you just being there supporting people, is pretty amazing.
It is. It is. And my death doula work is just sort of beginning and starting to unfold. I feel like again, the death doula part probably came first, well before the birth doula part came, but this is so typical me working in reverse or, choosing the road less traveled, or I don't know. So I laugh and it doesn't surprise me at all, but it is just beginning. But but a lot of people have asked me that, why would you choose that work? And oh, you're a birth doula, and that's such a beautiful, exciting, wonderful time in someone's life. And a death doula couldn't be more polar opposite. And actually, I think they're very, very similar because when becoming a mother, there's the death of the maiden, and there is a death of who you once were in this rebirth or this birth into this new person that you're becoming. And you have no idea who you're going to be as a mom and how you're going to parent. And it's all a learning together. Your baby is learning all of these things alongside you learning all these things. But the reality is, there is also a death of who you once were. And without making that sound really heavy or depressing, it's just the reality. And alongside that, there is that space in between birth, of being in the mother's body, of living as a part of her, where you're still completely connected as one, and baby emerges and comes into their own body. It's the most, I can't even describe it in words. It's the most delicate time. It's this moment where some babies are born and they seem like, oh, they've been here before. They know exactly what they're doing. They open their eyes, they look around, they give expressions, and you're like, what is happening? And then other babies take some time. Some babies need a little bit of time to come into their bodies. Some babies need a little bit of help coming into their body. There's always that moment where it's so delicate, is this baby is no longer a part of you, but is becoming their own being. And I feel like, again, it's like time speeds up and slows down and stands still. And sometimes I find myself holding my breath and sort of realizing, like, oh, I need to exhale now.
Yeah,
The
I
baby
bet.
is here and the baby has taken his or her first breath. And it's just this liminal space in between. And I
Yeah.
don't think they're very different. And from the work that I'm doing so far and working towards becoming a death doula, or maybe I already am, I don't know. Um, it's very similar. It's a lot of just being with people and holding space for people to talk and to share and to process, um, to just witness their journey. And there's a lot of logistical stuff that gets, intertwined into death doula work, depending on what you want to do with it as a career. But for me, it's just more so, yeah, being with someone, holding space, listening to them, talking to them, caring for them, honoring their life. And I think it's the most beautiful work there ever could be, to be honest. Yeah, I can't imagine a more rewarding um, experience. I can't even say a more rewarding career or job, because that's just hard words to put alongside. But yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, and what a gift to a family to have that support and to the person going through it. And yeah, I can imagine
Well, and
having someone.
ironically enough, I wasn't planning on talking about this or sharing this, or I don't know if I've ever told you this. So here we go. But I think one of my biggest life regrets, if I even believe that you can have regrets, was not being there when mom passed away. And I was there at the end, but then it was just too much. It was too much. And I was young, and there, is no going back. And I don't know if I would do it differently if I could. But I think that's something I've struggled with a lot over the years, and the fact that it was just too much and I couldn't do it, and I left, and I wasn't there when she passed. And to that end, I just feel like it's not really the child's job, it's not really the partner's job, it's not really the parent's job to be the one that sits with the person that's dying. Um,
Wow.
I think that's a choice. And I think everybody has to make that choice themselves. There is no right, there is no wrong. I believe that with birth as well. There's no right way to birth, there is no wrong way to birth. But very much so, if it's your choice to sit with the person that's dying, absolutely. But maybe in doing so, it's nice to have someone sit there with you and to help guide you through that, because it's a lot. But
Yeah.
being one step removed, not that it wouldn't still be emotional and still be very, very difficult at times, but I think that's the role of someone else.
Wow. I love that you say it's one of your biggest regrets, but then you don't really believe in regret. And I think I think about mom in that way too. And I did an interview a couple of podcasts back talking about my own regrets about, mom and mom's passing, and me not being what I guess I have to be honest with is this person then, because
Yeah.
I couldn't have been that person when I was 20 something years old, never having gone through what I've gone through. But at the same time, rather than painting it as regret, you can see it as what led you to where you are now. And that's what it's really all about, right? That it's all an evolution, it's all a journey. And I think about that so much with my own experiences and the choices that I've made to survive the same cancer that she didn't survive. So much of it is felt guided by something beyond, any concrete evidence or science, something intuitive, something that feels bigger than me. And often I think that there's part of that's mom. And when you talk about that not being there with mom, if you were there with mom, who knows, because it would have changed your experience of everything as such a young person that maybe you wouldn't have felt that you want to do this now. So yeah, I love that you said that. It's not about regret. It's about
Yeah.
what comes from that, what's next. And this is what it was supposed to lead to for sure. The other thing that I was thinking a lot about, which is a little bit lighter, but when you were talking about after a baby is born, the mom and the baby are no longer one, but the baby has become a human in his or her own right, a living being on their own. And God, I'm feeling that so hard right now with my teenagers. It's felt like they were mine for so long, and now they're they always were their own. But I'm feeling it harder right now, right? Just
Oh my gosh, so much so. And mine are just a little bit younger than yours and not even both. But I think it was now I'm like, oh, here I am on a podcast about to quote someone, and I don't know if I haven't fact checked yet, so we might need to edit this. But I think it was
yeah,
Dr. Becky who says something along the lines of, how interesting is it that, from the moment they're born, all we do is try to create this sense of independence, this sense of security, this, we teach them to grow up and do all these things like walk and talk and go to daycare and be independent. And then the moment they actually are, all we want is them back.
right. That's exactly
So
it.
it's so ironic. Like there they are as strong, independent, outspoken, amazing, grounded children venturing off into the world. And all we want is to like cling on to them and pull them back towards us.
Right. It's like the terrible thing about motherhood is if you're doing it right, your kids leave you.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
At least for a minute, at
Exactly.
least for a time, because that's what they're meant to do is fly the nest or whatever. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's just like, it's so funny. Just again, like in between, we're just like right smack in the middle of this, like raising kids part of life. And God, it's just in a new way. I mean, with two of mine going far away to college, which is what I always told them I wanted them to do. You're not meant to stay here, live in the same town that you grew up in. I want you to go and explore. And then when they left, I was like, are you kidding me? What do you mean? How are you
You
leaving
can't
me?
leave.
You can't go. I'm going to have to get an apartment there.
Mm.
Yeah, it's quite the
Yeah,
journey.
and to be continued into the next podcast, I know that we want to have a conversation about
Yes.
being mothers without a mother, really
Yes.
being mothers and parents without having parents and their support and their guidance and their wisdom, for better or worse. This could be a conversation argued both ways. I'm sure some people that have, parents overly involved in, in intrusive and putting, forth their opinions can also be really challenging. But for us, I know that's something we talked about last week as well.
Yeah,
Just the fact that we've had to figure it out on our own, and without that support has also had its challenges.
it has. It
Yeah,
definitely has.
yeah.
Yeah. I don't
Well,
know. I
I'm
think
so grateful for you because I can't imagine growing up without you.
well, I'm glad that we have each other because
Yeah,
everything's better when we're together.
it is. It is.
Well, maybe we should just stop this one here because we're going to have more and more.
Yeah, like a Band-Aid.
Like a Band-Aid,
Rip
always
it off.
rip it off. It was so nice to connect with all of you again on the Brainy Blonde podcast. I hope you enjoyed that conversation. So often we look forward to the big moments in life, but when you get a cancer wake-up call, you realize that the little moments are the big moments. It's all that little stuff in between that really matters the most. And I know your time is precious. I am so happy that you decided to spend some of it with me today.